duty to be answerable. But Transparency International has gone a step further. What we've been doing is developing what are called development pacts, where in communities, especially at local government level, there must be a threshold of what you call accountability. Standards that are set between the communities and the deliverers of services or custodians of information. What are we going to hold them accountable for? What is the level of answerability? Is it related to their responsibility? Is it related to their promises or targets on deliverables? When you set those standards as a community or as a group of people, then you have empowered the public to be able to go and say, targets A, B, C, D have not been met. When we met in January, you promised that by June we would be at this level. This is working at all levels, whether it's for schools, for health, or for the court systems. And this is something that we think that helps to build a relationship of accountability and access to information. Because of time, I think I can stop here.
Thank you, Mary Jane. I see Eben's hand is up when I've not even opened the floor for questions. Did you want to say something, Eben?
No, when you were...
Yes. Yes. Let me just say that I want us to pick up on some of the things that the presenters have said, but I want us to open up the debate around access to information and why do we want it. Because I think whilst we've been talking, I'm sure since the morning and since Cape Town, why we want it and so forth, maybe Mary Jane is adding another aspect. And the aspect that I hear Mary Jane add is, how do we demand it? How will they give it to us? And when we have it, what are we going to do with it? Those are some of the questions that I would want us to talk about. But let's get the first round of hands for comments, questions, and discussion. Yeah, when you had your hand up, I will take a round of the gentleman. So let me take the first 5 people. Yes. Okay. Very well. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I'm so sorry for jumping the gun if I did. Eileen, thank you very much for the frank presentation. It's appreciated that you're representing the office that you do. We don't hear the normal, we are doing the best we can and everything is actually okay type of thing. You're in the system, you see the problems. The previous session as well alluded to laws that exist and international treaties and so forth, and we now through this discussion, and is very relevant, refer to constitutional rights and what the Constitution says. Frankly, I really feel that we are grasping at straws here, and I'll tell you why. Maybe I should just quickly jump to the question and say that all I'm saying now is leading up to that question, and the question is, what can the Ombudsman's Office do for the public under the circumstances I'm about to sketch to you? The man on the street does not have a cost-effective and efficient system to protect his own rights. If a person would want to request a court, and thank you very much for bringing in that issue because it's vital to this whole discussion of access to information, want to approach a court to enforce a constitutional right, that person will have to have a minimum of $1 million or so to spare in legal costs. That is the reality of it. So unless we reach the point where every man on the street has got that money to expend, we cannot really talk about the freedom in these regards. So there has to be systems, there has to be institutions that assist the public, the person on the street, to exert their rights in constitutional rights. For instance, we have watchdogs, we have the Anti-Corruption Commission, and thank you for alluding to the fact that there's a financial regulator such as NAMFISA. These institutions, and the Ombudsman Office, of course, these institutions are tasked and have a very clear duty to protect the public. And unfortunately, currently, that is not happening. We have an attitude in Namibia of, and especially at that level, at regulatory level, we have an attitude that the law does not allow us to interfere. We cannot do this, this, and that because there is no laws in place. And then we're looking for new laws, like we're looking for a new law now. We need a new law to guarantee us access to information. The fact of the matter is that there's already quite a few laws. The Anti-Corruption Commission has a duty to provide reasons if one person who's tasked with deciding on whether there will be an investigation or not, one person, if that person decides, and it's a pity that Mr. Noah is not here, I echo the previous sentiments, if that person decides that there will not be a further investigation, he has a legal duty, currently in law, to provide reasons. I know of several instances where this did not happen. We have the laws, there's no access to information. Okay? That is necessary to have accountability and transparency. So we don't have to have these philosophical debates on improved access to information. We currently have a situation that is already fairly deplorable. Okay, so the watchdogs and the regulators have this duty. We sit with a situation where a person complaining, a consumer of the financial service industry complaining to NAMFISA, NAMFISA says, we will do an investigation, but you're not entitled to the outcome thereof or the reports thereof. So that is now denied, and the question is, under these circumstances, even with new laws now currently being discussed, called the FIMBIL, which NAMFISA is administering, they have expanded the number of parties that may receive information flowing from investigations. All government institutions, the members of the, for instance, pension funds and medical aid funds and so forth are still excluded from receiving that information. The person in the public, the person that's really actually supposed to have this. So the question again, what role can the Ombudsman's office play under these circumstances?
Thank you, Evan. If we can try and reduce the commentary so that we have more people participate. Let me have the gentleman, I'll come to you. I've seen your hand. Yes. The gentleman with the glasses here, okay, they both have glasses. You can give it to him afterwards. It's fine, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Shkoya. I just want to find out about, we are talking about women's rights. I want to maybe to understand well the definition of women's rights, because in our country now, you can see that women's rights restrict even the parents when they want to discipline their kids or their children in general. But now the question comes is, if the parents want to discipline their children, and also at the same time, the women's right, which I cannot understand well here, come in and say, you are violating the women's right of that child. Now my question comes, how I'm going to discipline the kid in order for me, this kid not to be a criminal, or either a prostitute, or either somebody who can also cause a damage in this country. I could give a clue or an example. Let's say my kid walk in the street. There's a street kid standing there, and everybody knows that kid is belong to the kid of Mr. Squire. And whenever a minister maybe either drove his car there, this kid throws stone in the head of a minister. Will they come to ask first? Will they just take that kid straight, or they will come to me as I didn't discipline my kid? I think really this women's right, we have to explain well so that it can enter in our head that women's right means like this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let me have the gentleman in front of you, and then we've seen your hand.
Thank you. I'm Johan Kutsia from the Polytechnic. I would like to congratulate Ms. Eileen, I think, for a very excellent from what she said, I just want to ask one question. She referred to the international law and the obligations of the government. What does it mean in practical terms for the man on the street? To what extent can we demand something from that? First of all, that's what I would like to know. Then secondly, I want to make a comment in terms of, we talked about data, raw data, and the process of data. And normally you take data and then you translate it into information and then into knowledge that contributes to understanding and insight and then wisdom. So if we don't have data, if we don't have accurate data, we miss the whole process and we will not end up with wisdom. Then also I would like to comment on the fact that Ms. Eileen commented on different rights, and I think it's time that we translate these rights into opportunities. The opportunity to ask questions and to receive answers, as Mr. de Klerk also indicated. But that unfortunately costs a lot of money. Namibia is a mecca for lawyers. And it is the fact, Mr. de Klerk himself being a lawyer, he benefits from that. That's just on the sideline, it's just a joke. There's no support institutions, or very limited support institutions, to accommodate the cost, as he indicated, and I just want to highlight and emphasize his point. I think it's a quite valid point. Then also on the process, I think Mr. Noah indicated last year already, he's not here, but that the Anti-Corruption Commission is busy with whistleblower protection legislation.
Yes.
Now, that will only be effective if we have access to information. So actually the government should have started first with legislation on having access to information and guarantee that right and put systems in place in order to make that possible before we actually develop a Whistleblower Protection Act, because it's meaningless, the whole process. And then lastly, I'd also like to comment on the lady, Mary Ann from Zimbabwe. Mary Jane, sorry. She's so beautiful, I just get confused by her name. She is very practical, and I would like to hear more exactly from her. How does it work in Zimbabwe? She talked about the lines of responsibility, and how did you start that process to get that possible? Because I think that is one of the things we need to do in Namibia. Starting from the ground, not waiting for politicians. So what can we do? What can we learn from them? I'm very interested to hear from her. Thank you.
Good. Let's get to the next speakers. I've already taken a round, and then they answer, then we go come back to the second round. Gentleman with the white shirt.
Thank you. Thank you for a very good, enlightening or informative presentation by the presenter, Ms. Ellen. Hello. I would want also to thank Ms. Yvonne for being a very good referee for this game, in this session. My name is Erickson Mwanyekange. I'm an academic staff in the Department of Politics at the University of Namibia. I don't think I've got questions, but rather I want to comment and also complimenting the previous speakers. Well, number one is that I'm very encouraged by the presenter, Ms. Eileen, of identifying or isolating or indicating different elements, because the subject matter here is governance. And then she alluded at a very good, interesting case of talking of e-service and e-governance. Maybe just to remind not only her, but any other person within here today, that I think where we have to start with the question of e-governance, because she talked of the very failing system in our public sectors. Where we have to start is not a question of are we going to implement it, but rather questioning ourselves with the question of can we the use of digital devices to deliver this service electronically. But can we start with questioning ourselves the question of digital divide, the gap between those who can have access to such information or to such digital devices and access such services, and those who cannot, and to narrow it very, very narrow, to bring it very, very narrow, is that can we again look at a person who has a digital device in Calfred, so for example, and who has it and does not know how to use it. To that gap, I think it's quite interesting for us to know, not only is Namibia, but Africa is African, or specifically SADC as a region. Again, I should give gratitude to the two panelists, of course, Naita and Mary Jones, of indicating a very good, again, emphasis that they talked about democracy. Since again, I should again talk about the governance here, because democracy comes into play, because they said, well, it is a question of supply and demand of democracy. Not only from the state, but us, the citizens. Can we meet government halfway, demanding democracy from the state itself? Because it's a question of democracy meeting the equilibrium, the very good equilibrium point where we meet government halfway in that sense. So since there, then I want to thank all the panelists from all members of the House today. I thank you.
Last comment, quickly. I've already taken a hand for the first round. Sorry, I'm eager for sticking to the route that I
1, 2. Right, thank you again. Lucas Betwell from the Office of the Auditor General. My question to the House is, with respect to the topic that we are discussing here today, the presentations that have been made so far, I just want to find out what is the view from the House. In the absence of a law on access to information, are we using the current systems and institutions in place effectively to contribute to the provision of public information? Are we using the current systems and institutions in place that are mandated by law or policy to provide or contribute to public information? My question, for example, stems from the fact that as the Office of the Auditor General, we are mandated, we have a constitutional mandate in terms of Article 127 of the Constitution to audit all public institutions, offices, ministries, agencies, state-owned enterprises, regional councils, local authorities, and report thereon to Parliament. A Parliament has an inherent duty to table these reports to public. Upon tabling, the report becomes public information. If it's tabled by Parliament, by law, it's a public document. It has been tabled by Parliament. Now, you find cases whereby you go to Katima, for example. The people or the community in that area, for example, do not have access to the audit reports of their town council. This is where they pay their water and electricity, utility services, and all this. But they don't have access to a document that highlights how this revenue is collected and how it's reinvested back into that specific community. So my question is aimed at strengthening the fact that we need to start, in the absence of such a law, we need to start streamlining the work of this kind of institutions. Our office, for example, we have the Ombudsman Office, we have NID. I think as implementing partners, we need to start engaging more at different platforms to streamline our work into the public, to gain more momentum into the public so that they realize how relevant these institutions are to them in the absence of such a law.
Good.
Thanks.
So let's have some responses. I don't want to stifle debate, but I think let's allow for some more conversation.
Thank you, Yvonne, and I must at this point also admit that Yvonne is a legal practitioner and myself. But as you realize, we're not doing it for our own pocket. We couldn't stomach. You know what's the joke about legal practitioners? Why don't sharks eat legal practitioners? Professional courtesy. Yes, what I can say about Ewan's question, Caruela, about these things can be challenged. Unfortunately, we sit in a position where our instruments or our public bodies, like the Office of the Ombudsman, and I'm going to be very frank, we have a limited budget, and money is always an excuse, but it's really limited. We as an office, with everything that we need to do, gets 6.3 million. We also take what Eben said about the cost of legal proceedings. We have the I don't know what privilege of spreading the little bit of money that we get. And we got 300,000 this year after we specifically asked for a bit of money extra to take issues to court. The Ombudsman also firmly believes, this is why we took that. And the Minister of Justice agreed that the government of Namibia is at fault. Sometimes it just takes somebody to make a stand and just to start with the process. The Attorney General even went further and said that we're asking for too limited relief. However, this case is going to cost us about the whole of the budget that we have. And it's true. The citizen should have a mechanism in place for the little man. Because if you have money, and this is true, if you have money in Namibia, you have rights. Unfortunately, if you do not have money to have access to our legal system, you do not have rights. And I want to applaud institutions like the LAC who took the sterilization case to court, because everybody knew it was uninformed consent, as well as discrimination. But nobody took the plight to court. It took the LAC quite a number of years to prepare this matter. And I knew that the attorney who handled it for the government, she already told me halfway through the case that they have big problems in this regard. And it's true. Sometimes you need to force the hand of government. Yes, that is why the Ombudsman is there. But again, funding. The thing is, if we receive cases like this, we had the GIPF case that was brought to our attention. We do not have the capacity to deal with those cases. I have currently on my staff one legal officer who's a very junior person, and 9 investigators all over the country. So unfortunately for us, the only other 2 legally qualified people is myself and the Ombudsman. So for us, sometimes it's just that we cannot get to things. But access to information is really one of those things that touch on the nerve of how we want our citizens to live. The second question about human rights, I want us to explain a bit about human rights. You can call it whatever you want, but the Bible says, don't do unto others what you don't want to be done to yourself. So if you see yourself in a place and you want people to treat you in a certain manner or not to deny you your rights, this is what human rights is. You should also give other people that opportunity. With regard to children, the biggest problem is that human rights is not saying that you cannot discipline your child. Human rights is saying don't beat your child to death because he spilled a bit of milk. All those things about the punishment should fit the crime, and it's all part of this big thing that we call human rights. But it's the thing, the biggest thing is, what do you want? Would you have liked your parent to beat you with a sjambok for breaking a glass? Yeah. So this is what you want to be done to yourself. And discipline is a big issue, and I mean, there's this criminal case currently proceeding in our courts. 20 years after independence, 20 years after outlawing corporal punishment, we're still not rid of it in our schools. Because our Education Act says it's a disciplinary offense if you as a teacher commit it. But there's no way of enforcing any punishment. And that's something all over. I want to touch on what you said about using the instruments. You, as the Auditor General, report to Parliament. Parliament have a financial accounts committee. They bring these things out. They bring out that most of the municipalities in Namibia is not functioning as they're supposed to. But what happens thereafter? And that's a big issue. We can have access to information, but what do we do with that information? We're not putting the next foot there for accountability. We're not saying, Mr. CEO of this and this company or this municipality, you mismanaged this municipality. You are fired. We don't do that. We give him another chance for the next 6 years to try and figure out what he did wrong.
So we give him a golden handshake.
A golden handshake, yes. We're looking at NWR. And simply when asked, they said, but it was in his contract, and nobody questions that. Nobody challenges it. I know there's a group of lawyers that's talking about forming a coalition to start taking these things to court, and I think that's a brilliant idea, because the only way that we're going to be able to change it is if we do not stop talking. Okay, international instruments and why it's important in Namibia. Because everything in our law and in our constitution was not homegrown. It comes from somewhere. Now, why international obligations are important is because we as a government said, yes, we recognize this obligation and we bind ourselves in capacitating our citizens to be able to exercise their rights in the human rights obligations. Now, there's 7 major instruments that we ratified, and that is a part of our national law. Now, this case that I spoke about, housing is not recognized as a right in our constitution. The same with water. But those are recognized internationally. And now, if you look at Section 144 of our constitution, and Yvonne, you must help here. You are the, and where is John? We are a monolithic country, so if we say these things are important internationally, it filters through in our law system without writing legislation on that. So it's true that we recognize the right to information. We recognize all these things, and we do not need legislation to be able to enforce it.